Now, ladies and gentlemen, please understand this is 5 days selection process followed by all the three services. And this is a very, very unique kind of a selection system. Why I call it unique? Because unlike any other selection processes, right, where it is normally your knowledge interview, here what gets assessed is your personality, your behavior traits. Okay. So since this is quite a unique system, which is primarily based on, what should I say, psychological and scientific principles, the awareness or the knowledge about this particular system, I find is very limited amongst not only participants, but even amongst some of the defense officers. Okay. Uh, and there are a lot of gray areas, lot of misinformation, lot of misconceptions about this SSB process. I'll try to elaborate this point with the help of a diagram, very famous diagram. Okay, very famous picture. What do you see? You see blind men trying to describe an elephant. Now, ladies and gentlemen, these men have never seen an elephant in their life. This is the first time they have been exposed and asked to describe it. So based on whichever portion they are feeling, touching, exploring, they make an attempt to describe. And if somebody was to redraw this diagram based on the details given by these men, what you will get is another this famous diagram, something like that. Okay, nowhere near reality, a distorted picture. Now, ladies and gentlemen, SSB is something like this. People see it from outside, don't get exposed to it, no tidbits of information. Okay, and then they share it on, say, internet, or some people even decide to open a coaching institute to guide people. Since they don't know the system, they will not be able to explain the system correctly to you. And in turn, what you get is a distorted picture. Okay, so here a word of caution, tip or guidance to all of you. Please don't go by what you see on internet about SSB. There are sites, good number of sites, right? ssbcrack.com and n number of them, where all the candidates who have just appeared for SSB may have even failed. Then they come and give comments as to what SSB looks for, and you should do like this, you don't do like this, you answer like this. And therefore, what you perceive, right, yourself is a distorted picture like the one you are seeing in front. Okay. I would even go to the extent of saying that some of the defense officers, some of them even who have been associated with SSB, right, and then now start coaching also, they also probably on intention decide to get blindfolded, and primarily for commercial reasons. So I will not say anything more than that. I'll leave it at that. So please have a good understanding of SSB process, and that would be my attempt today. I have been part of this system, like Honorable VC was mentioning, for good about 4 years. I have interviewed good about 3,000 students, and today I can proudly say in Indian Army and in Indian Navy, there would be about more than 500 officers who got commissioned, right? So since I know the system little bit, and since I have got no commercial interest, my endeavor would be to tell you about SSB as simple manner and as straightforward manner as is possible. Okay, so proceed further. Okay, gentlemen, now I told you this is 5 days process. Those 5 days, what is the schedule like? Which are the events that get conducted? If you want to have a official and correct version, please go to the YouTube, and this is the link I have given you. Now this is a video of 30 minutes duration prepared by Services Selection Center Bhopal. So this is an official version approved by DIPR, that is Defense Institute of Psychological Research. It gives you entire sequence with photographs and videos, and also telling you as to what is expected out of candidates when they go for assessment. So please have a look at it. All those who have not seen it, please go through it. That is what is going to explain the entire procedure. I'll barely be touching on subsequent. Wherever you have any gaps, come back to this video and you will be very clear. Okay, there are number of videos with this title, and therefore be cautious, right? See this, what you see when you Google it and open the YouTube, this is the first thing you see. What you see is the photograph of the Commandant Selection Center, Bhopal at that point in time. Okay, so now coming to the procedure as such. Okay, when you get directed to SSB, you are received at the railway station, buses come there. You are brought to Services Selection Center, like you see here. You are briefed, certain documentation checks are carried out, and then you are given chest numbers. So in SSB, the minute you enter SSB gate, you are known by your chest number. Please remember that. Okay. Now coming to the procedure as such, SSB process, it is conducted in 2 stages, stage 1 and stage 2. Stage 1, which happens on day 1, is also called screening test. Okay, for certain entries, since there are very large number of people who land up in SSB, there is a need felt to screen out below average candidates on day 1 itself. Okay. So it is a very important test from candidates' point of view. Now this first day comprises of conduct of one intelligence test. This is a pen and pencil test, okay, where you have got certain problems, numerical, logical, certain diagrams which you need to complete. You have to finish it in given time, okay. And based on your score there, your OIR gets decided. Now, what is OIR? This is Officer Intelligence Rating, classified from 1 to 5. So, OIR 1 is the best, OIR 5 is not so good. Okay. So, this is one kind of test which gets conducted. Another test which happens is called PPDT, Picture Perception and Description Test. Now, you will get to know details and how it gets conducted in that video also. For those who do not have that benefit, I'll briefly explain the process. You are shown a story for 30 seconds. You are expected to write a story in 4.5 minutes on that. Okay. Thereafter, the entire batch is divided into groups, and you are taken to rooms, PPDT rooms, the one like you see in front, where you are made to sit in a group of 10 to 15 in a half circular manner. What you see on the right of the screen, 3 gentlemen sitting are assessors, okay, psychologists, GTO, and interviewing officers. Now here you narrate your story one by one, what you had written in 1 minute time, starting from left and then continuing turn by turn to right. The moment last candidate finishes his story narration, then it is followed by discussion automatically. And what is the aim of this discussion? Discussion is to arrive at a common story. After the discussion, somebody from the group only gives that common story for the benefit of everybody. So that is the end of test. These two tests together, gentlemen, are part of stage 1. Based on your performances there, right, results are decided. All those who do not make it, primarily they will be the persons who do not make the basic initial grades, like we call them in SSB below average candidates. They are sent home, and those who are retained are put through stage 2. Now, this stage 2 is the main process, ladies and gentlemen. Please note that, right? It is conducted over a period of 4 days. Psychological test, day 2, GTO test, day 3 and 4, and interview. Now, interview can be done on any of one of these days, day 2, day 3, or day 4. Day 4, after you finish your psychological test and GTO test. So you are called in one by one for your interview. It could be any of these 3 days. Then final day is the conference where all the assessors sit together, okay, including those who have assessed you. You get called in. Some routine questions are asked. In some cases, some specific questions also could be asked, okay. And once our conference finishes, within half an hour or 1 hour, your results are declared. Okay, whether you are getting recommended or you stand rejected. Those who are recommended are retained there for their medical test, which happens again for 4-5 days. So that is the process. Little about these processes in some more details. Psychological test, please get to know the details from that video if you don't know already. Okay, it consists of 4 subtests: TAT, VAT, SRT, and self-description. Now, TAT is thematic apperception test. You write 12 stories, same way as I explained in screening. WAT, word association test. You are shown 60 words, one after the other, for a duration of 15 seconds, and you are expected to write a sentence on that word. SRT, situation reaction test. Now, there are 60 situations which are given in each situation in a line or 2. You are expected to write the answer to that again in a sentence or 2. Okay, 60 situations, total time given is 30 minutes. Got to be very careful about the time part of it. Okay, so please take a note of it. Got to be very careful about time. I have seen in 60 minutes, some candidates even not been able to complete, say, 15, 20, or at best 30 situations. It's got to be very clear about the time. Don't think too much. Don't write too lengthy a reaction time. Okay, last is, of course, part of psychological test is your self-description, right? It is part of your self-awareness. So what your teachers, parents, friends think about you, you need to jot down. What you think you are, your strengths and weaknesses, and what are the things you would like to do, say, in future. So based on that, you write about yourself, self-description. Okay, this is the end of your psychological test. Now, before I switch on to the next test, just a word of advice. Please understand, all these are psychological tests. You don't even get in touch with a psychologist face-to-face, who is your assessor, right? This is not test of your language or grammar, etc. They are all tests to judge your personality, right, through the medium of these tests. Okay, and much of these answers, please understand, they come from your subconscious and unconscious label. There is no right or wrong. It is your answers based on which your personality gets reconstructed. So please don't try and prepare yourself based on whatever appears in net or whatever may be told by some not so good coaches. Okay, you can't be coached on this. Please remember that. Okay, next, GTO task, day 3 and 4. There are 9 sub-tests which get carried out, you are subjected to. I have listed them. this notice this basic series, confirmatory series, final series. This is not shared with the students. Okay, this is for the consumption of SSS and SSB. But point here is to note, ladies and gentlemen, there is a lot of misconception about it. Okay, these are not to test your physical fitness alone. That is just a one minuscule part of the testing. What gets tested is your group effectiveness. How good you are as part of a group. And these tests, all 9 of them, they are not stand-alone tests. Not that in each you either pass or fail. No. They start giving some idea about your personality as the test progresses. And your assessment happens simultaneously, and that assessment, I could say, is kind of a cumulative in nature. So by the time GTO finishes on second day, he has got enough inputs about you, and he would have made up his mind about your selection stroke non-selection. Okay. Now, these details, please go through that video. You will get a fairly good idea along with some pictures. But for those who have not got even exposed and this is their first opportunity, I'll try and describe very briefly with the help of certain pictures. Okay. So first one, group discussion, all of you are aware. Made to sit in a circular fashion, 2 topics are given on which you carry out your group discussion. Okay, GP, group planning exercise, with the help of a model, cloth model or otherwise model. Some situation is painted to you, which has 2-3 problems of varying nature. Okay, you have to analyze that, plan as to how you will attempt to those. First, write individually and then discuss amongst yourself, right, in this fashion. Okay, and then discussion is to arrive at a common solution. Once that common solution is arrived at, somebody from the group again gets up and gives that common. So that is the, very briefly, the test. GOR, group obstacle race. Now entire batch is divided in 3 or 4 groups depending on their strength. Now each group, right, is given a rope, long rope, right? Like you can see, it is very light but very long. And as a group, you have to cross 8 to 10 obstacles in between and reach the finish line. Whosoever reaches first is the winner. Okay, the only point is you got to reach there as a group. Even one person is left behind, then you do not complete the exercise. Okay, here is something called lecturate. Okay, this is an individual test. What happens? You pick up a chit. There are 3-4 topics. You choose one, prepare on it for 3 minutes, then get in front of your group, and then you talk about that topic for a period of 3 minutes. Okay. Now, there are certain group tasks. This is PGT, progressive group tasks. There are 2 similar tasks called final group tasks and command tasks. They all revolve around some obstacle system. So what happens? There is an obstacle, there is a start line, there is a finish line. There are certain resources given to you in terms of, generally they are in terms of a rope, plank, right, and a bully, generally. Okay, and as a group, following certain rules, you have to start from start line and finish at the finish line as a group. Again, you can't leave any person behind. So that is the gist of the test. Okay, there is something called individual obstacles. Okay, set of 10 obstacles which you have to attempt as many as you can within 3 minutes. Okay, I have shown pictures of 2, like you climb up, get up, jump down, and again jump down. 1. Another obstacle is you come running, get hold of a rope, take a swing, get onto the other side of the ditch. So these are the kind of GTO tests which are carried out over a period of 2 days. Now, before I switch on to the next, I'll like to, even at the cost of repetition, tell you, please understand, you have to be a team person to be selected in defense forces as an officer. Please remember that. And all these tests are there to see how good a team member you are. Whether you are a selfish person, you take everybody along. When obstacles come, how do you behave? What is your behavior with your group, etc., etc. All these things get tested. Okay, and as Honorable Vice Chancellor mentioned to you, from these tests, certain qualities come up. And those qualities are then compared with something called OLQs, officer-like qualities. So there are 15 OLQs in defense forces for all SSB. And gentlemen, please understand, this SSB procedure, when I said unique, is unique also in the sense that you have the same set of tests, whether you come at 10+2 level, whether you are a women candidate or whatever. Tests don't change because they are there to judge your personality, your behavior traits. All right. So GTO task, please understand, physical fitness is one aspect of it. Like Honorable VC mentioned, it is the responsibility of training institutes to make you physically fit, provided you have got ingredients on those officer-like qualities, okay, and provided you are medically fit. So that is the responsibility of defense forces to make you physically fit. We don't want monkeys to begin with. Okay, there has to be balance in the personalities. Okay, more about it later. This is interview. This is how you sit whenever you go there. Okay. Now, just a word. This interview carries for 30 to 40 minutes duration generally. Okay. And what I can tell you here, gentlemen, people again go with lot of misperceptions about interview. There is a misperception floating around that you are asked rapid fire questions, right? There is a misperception going around that if you answer in a particular manner, then you do better. If you don't do in that way, then it is not to your advantage. Let me tell you, gentlemen, though it is an interview, again, based on psychological principles, and one thing I would like to share with all you participants, please make a note of it, right? That 90 to 95% questions that get asked, right, are the ones which pertain to you only, right? You only, and you only know the answers, nobody else, including the interviewing officer. And since it is pertaining to you, whatever you say, there are no fixed right or wrong answers. So please remember that what you may get asked is about your education, what have you done, what grades you obtained, how was it like with your friends, and what are co-curricular, extracurricular, your family, your hobbies, such like things about you only. All right, so please don't go with any preconceived idea, pre-mugged up answers, right? You are the loser, because then you are not being your natural self, you are trying to wear a mask, and people are very competent to see you through that mask. All right.